What's going on, guys? Welcome back. In our last video, we went over our data model for our notifications and did a little bit of updating to our UI as well to get some of that logic implemented for how to correctly display our notifications based on the notification type that we see or receive rather. So in this video, I want us to get started with our notification service. So this is going to be all of the code that's related to communicating with our backend for our notifications. That includes uploading notifications, deleting notifications, and fetching notifications. So let's go ahead and create a new file here. It's going to be a Swift file, and we're going to call this notification service. And we are going to create a class, called notification service. So let's go ahead and create the three functions that we're going to use here. So I'm going to create a function for fetching our notifications. And it's going to async throw an array of notifications. And guys, for now, we can just say return developer preview.shared.notifications. So this is like just returning mock data for now, because we obviously don't have any notifications to fetch yet, right? So that brings me to my next function. We're going to say func upload notification. And this is going to have some input parameters. So we need to know who we're sending the notification to, right? So basically how this is going to work, guys, is let's say I go to my feed and I like Charles Leclerc's post, right? I have to send a notification from me, the person who is interacting with that piece of content, to the person that owns that piece of content. So I need to say to UID, which is a string. So my notification is going to go from me to a particular user or person. And then I need to know the type of notification that I'm sending. So for example, if I were to like this post, I would send a notification, a like notification. If I were to comment on this post, I would send a comment, so on and so forth, right? So I need to know the type of notification that I am sending. And then we also need to know if we have a post associated with that notification, but we are going to make it optional and give it a default value of nil. And that's because it's not always going to be there, right? So for example, if I go to someone's profile and I go to follow them, obviously there's no post associated with that. So we want to make sure that we have that post as optional. And the reason we give it a default value of nil is because we don't always want to have to specify that it's nil, right? We'll see that when we actually call this function in certain places. And then next up, guys, we are going to make a function to delete notifications. And we need to know who it's being deleted for. So basically, if I unlike a post, right? So if I go here and like Charles Leclerc's post, it's going to send him a notification. But if I unlike it, I need to delete that notification. So I need to know who I'm deleting the notification for or who owns the content. And then I also need to know the type. And we also need to know the post that is associated with it. Pretty much the same as before. And guys, that looks good for now. So what we need to do is get started with the implementation of uploading a notification, right? So we can't do anything with these two functions until we can actually upload a notification and have notifications in the database. So let's get started with this. So the first thing we're going to need is the currently logged in user's ID. That's who the notification is going to come from, right? So we're going to say guard let current UID equal auth. And we also need to import Firebase up at the top, .auth, .currentUser, .uid, else return. And next up, guys, we're going to want to make sure that this UID is not equal to the current UID. Why is that? Well, I don't want to send notifications to myself, right? So let's see who I'm logged in as. I'm logged in as Max Verstappen. If I go and click on this guy and I like this post, I don't want to send a notification to myself. So in that case, we're sending it to myself, and we can check to make sure that these two things aren't equal before we, so that we make sure we don't send notifications to ourselves. All we have to do is say guard. We could even add this on the same line. We could say UID is not equal to current UID, else return. So once again, that just guarantees we're not going to send notifications to ourselves. Okay, next up, we need to send our notifications to a particular place, right? So we need to send it to a particular collection in our backend. So let's go ahead and talk about that really quickly. So I'm going to pull up our Firebase backend for the completed project, guys. And let me just make this a little bigger so you can see it. Oops. We see here that we have a notifications collection, okay? And then we are going to group this by user. So these are all user IDs. And then we're going to have a sub collection called user notifications that contains all of the notifications for that particular user. And this is what our notification is going to look like in the back end. So it's, another way of doing this, guys, and I don't know if one way is better than the other, but you could just add a notification collection on this particular user object and just create a sub collection, sort of like we did here. Or you could do it this way. Like I said, I think it's tomato, tomato, same, but different. I don't know if there's any benefit to one or the other. I think either way is fine, to be honest. So we're going to just do it this way because this is what I have it existing as. But like I said, you could make that sub collection on the user object as well, because all of these notifications are specific to one user, right? So here's how we're going to do it. Notifications collection, user ID, sub collection called user notifications, and then a list of all the notifications that user has, right? So this is more clear. These are all the notifications that this particular user has, right? Okay, so pretty straightforward. Let's go ahead and figure out how we're going to do this. So let's see. I want us to go to our constants file and make a new collection for our notifications. So we're going to say static let notification collection equal root.collection notifications. Cool. So next up, let's see, guys, we're going to go back to our notification service and we're going to create our reference path. So we can just say let ref equal fire, I think it's Firebase constants dot notification collection dot document. And this is going to this user, right? So we're sending a notification to this particular user. So we go uid.collection user-notifications, and then we are going to say .document. And then we are going to construct our notification. So I'm going to say let notification equal notification. And here's everything we need. So we're going to say post ID, and that should be good. So make sure you guys include the post ID in there. So it should look like this. So our ID, guys, is going to be our ref.document ID. That's why we create this here. And then our post ID is going to be post.id. Both of these things are optional, so that should match up fine. Our timestamp is just going to be a timestamp like this. Our notification sender UID is the current UID. And our type is just the type that we pass into this function. So this is what our notification is going to look like. And then, guys, we're just going to encode this notification so that we can send up the data to Firestore. So I'm going to say guard let notification data equal Firestore dot encoder dot encode our notification. Else return. And I believe we need to say try with a question mark. Yep. Post has no member ID. Let's go ahead and check our post out really quickly, guys. Just command click into that. You are lying to me. A post does have an ID. Oh, I need to say post with a question mark .id. Yep, that looks good. And that's because we have an optional post object here, guys. Okay, so next up, all we got to do is say ref.setData, notification data, bada bing, bada boom. All right, so we have functionality to upload our notifications now, guys. So the next thing we need to do is just figure out when we call this function and where, right? So what I want us to do is actually implement something called a notification manager that's going to help us send these notifications to different users, right? So let's go ahead and create one more folder here, guys. And we're going to create a notification manager. And I'll explain why we're doing it this way in a little bit. Okay, so this manager is going to be pretty straightforward. We're just going to create a class called notification manager. And we are going to have a function to upload different types of notifications. So we're going to say func upload like notification. And we're going to say to UID string. And we will for sure have a post associated with this. And then let's just go ahead and copy and paste this. I'm going to say upload comment notification. And then I'm going to upload a follow notification. And guys, this is not going to have a post associated with it. So now we have 3 functions to upload our different notification types, right? So now how do we actually call the function that we need to upload that notification? What's the final piece here? Well, we are going to implement an instance of our service in this guy. So I'm going to say private let service equal our notification service. And then here we're going to say service dot upload notification to that particular UID, and the type is going to be dot like. And we can copy and paste this. And it's going to be comment. And then here it's going to be dot follow. So this is pretty smooth, right? We have these 3 helper functions that are going to help us upload these notifications. So really quickly though, guys, we do need to add our post object here to both of these. And like I said, we are going to go over why we do this way. So I'm going to actually create a shared instance here of this notification manager. I'm going to say static let shared equal notification manager. And then I'm going to say private init, and it's just going to be blank. Okay, so guys, before I do that explanation, I just want us to go over how and where we're going to implement this now. So let's go and find where we like a post. Let's see if we can first start this off by sending a like notification. And then we'll do it for comments, and we'll do it for following as well. So let's see. In our view model, I think we have a feed cell view model. Yep. And we have this like function. Boom. Easy to find, right? So here, where we like the post, we're going to make sure that we await the post to be liked. And then we're going to go here and just say notification manager dot shared dot upload like notification. And it's going to be the post.owner UID that we send it to, and we're just going to inject that post here. So we can see just how easy it is to implement that. And we are going to go over why I keep saying that. I just want you guys to know that I'm not forgetting about you, and I'm not writing code that I'm not going to explain. I try to explain every single piece of code that I write for you guys so you understand everything that I'm doing and the way that I think and the way that I build apps. And this is how the pros do it, man. I'm telling you, I know because I've done it at the highest level, boy. But anyway, let's go ahead and do the same thing for our comments, guys. So let's see, comments. We go to our view model, and here we have an upload comment function. Boom. Okay, so at any point, we can just say notification manager dot shared dot upload comment notification. Boom. And we're going to say how do we do this? Yeah. So we have the post that this comment is associated with. And guys, we've really just set ourselves up for success here, right? Like the way that we've structured our code, and this is where building scalable and good code really starts to come in handy, right? If you take a little bit of time to build things out the right way, adding functionality to your app is just so easy, and it feels easy, right? Just like this right now, like this sending notifications right now is super easy. All we have to do is say send to the post.owner UID, and we're sending it for this particular post, right? So that basically when Yuki comments on my post, this is how we can get all of that information. Hey, this person commented on my post, and this is the post they commented on. That's awesome, right? Okay. And then the last piece of the puzzle is our follow implementation, guys. So let's go ahead and go to our profile page or our profile view model. And in our follow guy, man, this is just too easy, bro. I'm too good at this, man. And I'm teaching you guys how to do it too. we're just going to go here and say notification manager dot upload follow notification. Ooh, we need to say shared. And we're going to say to UID, and guess what? We already have the user that we need. So we're just going to say user.id. And it's as simple as that, guys. So now what I want us to do is run our code and test all this stuff out and see if that's showing up in our database, guys. So let's go ahead and run this, launch the app on the simulator, and implement some testing, some end-to-end testing. That's what that is. We want to make sure that everything goes from one place to the other, or end-to-end, i.e. from app to database, all correctly. So let's go ahead and try this out. So I'm going to go and let's see who I'm logged in as. I'm logged in as Batman. I'm going to like Venom's post, and that's it. Let's see if we can comment on it too. Test comment. Boom. All right, so we should have 2 notifications in our database. Let's go ahead and check to see if they're there. So pulling up our database project, let's go, and we see already, guys, that notifications are showing up there. If you guys had it open, make sure you refresh. Anytime you add a collection to Firestore, you have to refresh the page for it to show up. And then we see that we have a user ID here, and then we see notifications, and boom, we see 2 notifications, right? And let's check them out. So we notice that a post ID is associated with both of them. Post ID, it's the same post. And let's check and see who got this notification. So the IDs match up, that's good. Notification sender UID is C89 for me. So if I go to my stuff here, I see C89 is Batman, so that looks good. And then I think Venom's stuff is this one, OGLAM. And we noticed that Venom received that notification, right? So that's absolutely amazing, guys. Let's go ahead and just for kicks, let's go ahead and send a follow notification to Venom as well. So let me go here and I'm going to follow him. And boom, we see that show up basically instantly, man. And guys, that type here is represented as an integer. So that is why we created our notification type enum as an integer type. You can't send up like an enum type to Firestore. It has to be some type of raw value, whether it's a string or an integer or something like that, right? So we use integers to distinguish our notification types. And when we fetch our notifications, our enum will recognize that we're expecting an integer, and it will construct the correct case or type based on that integer that it receives, which we'll see when we fetch our notifications, which we're going to do in the next video. Really quickly, I do owe you guys an explanation of why we implemented this notification manager, right? So let's go ahead and figure that out. So guys, I created this notification service, and this is responsible for communicating with Firebase, right? Like this is where all of my logic is for communicating with my backend. But I created this manager too, and you guys are probably wondering why. Well, the reason is we're going to be calling these notification functions from a bunch of different places in the app, right? Like we called it from one place where we like posts, one place where we follow people, one place where we, comment on posts, right? So that's a bunch of random places. And instead of implementing a bunch of separate instances of our notification service in all of those places, we just create this notification manager, and we're going to create this shared instance. So we only create one of these things, and then that is going to have a single instance of our notification service, right? So that way we're only creating one notification service and using it in different places in the application to upload our notifications. The alternative to that would be to everywhere you need to upload a notification to create an instance of this notification service, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it might make things a little bit trickier with like your reference counting and your object management and stuff like that. If you have a bunch of different notification instances of this class hanging around in different places of the application. So I think this manager was just a better implementation of that, right? And this manager is simply responsible for uploading those notifications, and we use our service to do that. And we can create these 3 really nice helper functions, right? So like I can upload a like notification, and I know that I have to supply it with this data. And then I have my implementation of that here using my service, right? So that's the reason I chose to do it that way, guys. You guys could do it different if you want. You could have made your notification service have a shared instance here. I just prefer not to do that because we are going to be using dependency injection here to inject this service into our view model. I want to show you guys really professional, proper service architecture here. Up to this point in this course, we haven't really done things the perfect way that you should in a production app. We have some shared instances, and that's typically frowned upon in terms of architecture and stuff. And we have concrete implementation of services inside of view models. I'm going to show you guys the right way of implementing a service, of how it's really done in the pro world. And I also have a full course that breaks that down, guys. Let me show you that really quickly. So on the website at stephancodes.com, if you guys go to the courses section and you guys want to know more about really professional networking, go ahead and take the Swift Networking Masterclass. This includes a bunch of awesome stuff like caching data, dependency injections, unit testing, and all of that. So it's a really a much deeper dive into networking. I don't like to get too into the weeds about that in these pro courses with the app clones, just because there's already so much going on. But if you guys want more insight on that, you can go check that out. So that's going to wrap it up for this video, guys. In the next one, we're going to go over how to fetch our notifications and how to delete them, and ultimately display that data that's coming back from our database inside of our UI. So we'll see you there. Peace.